Right, so the very first thing you need to do is to wash all the parts in warm soapy water. So what I have here in my hand now is some dishwashing liquid, and down there in the trough I have some warm water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour a few drops of this dishwashing liquid into the trough below, like so. And this dishwashing liquid has the fragrance of lemons, so it's very pleasing to the senses. So as you can see, I've poured the dishwashing liquid into the trough, and now I'm going to stir it up so that the soap mixes with the water and forms some froth. And once that is done, I'm going to dip the sprues inside the warm water. Next, I'm going to scrub the sprues with an old toothbrush. I'll take them out of the warm water and gently scrub each individual part of the sprue with the toothbrush, like so, in gentle circular motions. And once all the parts are scrubbed with the toothbrush, I will wash them with clean water and leave them to air dry. Right, so what you can see in front of you is I have the sprues of the P-51 Mustang, and they're laid out on top of this cutting mat. So I'll just show you the cutting mat that I have. So this is an A4 size cutting mat, and it's got the measurements in centimeters. It's available from a company called Monsun in India. It's basically a Chinese company, but don't consider it any inferior product. It's served me for a good time of the last 2 years, and it's still going good. So it's a must-have. It's a self-healing cutting mat. So what happens is, if you're cutting stuff directly on the table, you're going to damage the table underneath or the wood underneath. So it's a good idea to have this A4 size cutting mat underneath, so that you can avoid damaging the property that you have. Now this is a self-healing cutting mat, which means that every time it gets a cut on it, it'll self-heal and you will not be able to see the cut. So you can see I've made numerous models and you can't even see a single cut on this. What I do is I use one side of the mat for all my cutting, building purposes, and I use the other side, which you can now see is absolutely clean, use the other side to photograph my models when I post my updates on Facebook and Instagram, etc. So always use just one side of it to build the entire model from the beginning till the end, so that this is the only side that, you know, gets worn out, and you still have the other side to take some good pictures. Right, so moving on to the model then. So the very first thing that you're going to need is, of course, cutting tools. So the first things that you do with the sprue are that you cut the parts out and you start assembling them. So the very first few and most important tools that you will need is this and this. Now this is it's a clipper. It's called a clipper, and this one is an X-Acto knife. Now this clipper is actually not the one that keeps itself closed like this, it keeps itself open like this. So this makes it easier to apply pressure and cut the parts, and it comes back to its original shape, which is the open shape. Now this is very different from a wire clipper. The wire clipper will have a straight edge, whereas this has an angled edge. The advantage of having an angled edge is that you get very smooth edges when you cut the parts off from the sprues. So it gives you that perpendicular edge when you cut it down. This one was available in my local hardware store. You can go to any paint shop, you can go to any hardware shop. You'll find it for about 45 rupees. Pretty cheap and a must-have. The next thing is the X-Acto knife. Now in the US and UK, you must have seen in all the videos, they call it an X-Acto knife. It's difficult to find this product in India if you search for it by the name of X-Acto knife. The name that it is sold by in India is a hobby knife. Now make sure that the hobby knife that you're getting is this one. There is another hobby knife that you get from various stationaries. This one was available for, I think I paid 190 rupees. So it came with the handle, and it came with a set of 10 size 11 blades. The ones that you get at the stationery are available for 10 rupees or maybe 15 or 20 rupees. Those are not the ones that you're looking for. The one that you're looking for is this, which is the X-Acto knife. As you can see, you know, it opens up from here. You can loosen and pull out the blade and replace another new blade in it. So it's a very handy tool, and you will use it for most of your cutting and cleaning activities that you perform on the model. So for example, if you're cutting a part out, at times what happens is it leaves a very small part of the sprue on the part that you're working on. So you can very easily, it's a very sharp knife, so be very careful when you're dealing with it. This sharp edge will smooth out any extra flash that remains on the part. So these are your two must-have cutting tools when you're beginning to assemble the model. As I said, this one is available for up to 200 rupees. It comes with a set of 10 blades. Again, this is again a Chinese product, but a very good one. It's lasted me for almost 2 years now. I've just changed the first blade this time, about a few months back. That's because the older one had lost its edge right out here. So I've changed the blade and I put a new one. So it's pretty handy. It's gonna last me, I think, a lifetime. Right, so I was about to start painting these small parts. This is the instrument panel, pilot's instrument panel. This is the seat, and this part is a radiator. Now what I've done, there are basically two ways or two methods of painting these small parts. One is you paint them on the sprues, which was something I used to follow earlier. The other is you cut them off the sprues so that you can clean them up properly, and then you place them on a flat surface. Now I have this, I don't know what this is. This is probably an eyeliner which my wife uses. It's no longer in use, so this helps me to get this flat surface. It's small, it's handy. So all I do is I will take this small part. You can also take a credit card. So you know, I have a credit card, a small piece of cardboard, anything with whatever is flat and is handy enough to move all around, so that you get a 360-degree view of the part that you're painting. So I am using this, and what I have is some Play-Doh. So I use Play-Doh, and this is available in any stationery store. You get it for about 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 30 rupees, various prices. And what I do is, over this, I make a roll out of it, and I just place it on top of this. Once that is done, the next thing I will do is I will place these small parts within the Play-Doh, so it will help me to hold the part together, and it will also give me a 360-degree view while I'm painting the part. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is, as you can see, I've already assembled the entire cockpit assembly. I've put in the seat, the instrument panel, the control column, and I've also painted up the entire cockpit floor. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this inside of this, and you can also see that I've painted the cockpit interiors as well, and this is almost ready now for this. So I'm going to place the entire cockpit floor assembly into the cockpit like this, and what I'm going to use for that is the good old Airfix. Now this is cyanoacrylate glue, so it's a very strong bonding glue, so be very careful when you're dealing with it. I use it for most of my model. It's a quick drying glue. It takes just about 5 to 7 seconds to set. It's very strong, so you need to be very careful. And the way that I apply this is, remember, this is for you as well, never apply it directly through the tube. So always have a flat surface where you can put the glue. I use an old outdated credit card. Again, as I said, never directly from the tube, because what will happen is if you put it directly from the tube, it'll end up, you know, spreading all over. So what you want is a very neat, thin application of it. So I'll put a few drops on the flat surface, and then use either a sharpened piece of sprue or a toothpick. So a toothpick is what I'm going to use, and I'll take this and apply it out here, the place where this is going to stick to the surface. Now remember, it's a fast drying glue, just about 5 to 7 seconds, so you need to be able to work quickly with it. And there we go. So I'll just apply a gentle bit of pressure here so that it conforms to the surface for about 5 to 7 seconds, and you can see that it's stuck very well within the cockpit. Okay, so we're back again, and what you see at the moment is the current state of the P-51 Mustang. So as you can see, I have attached the cockpit floor, the seat, the control panel, the instrument panel within the fuselage. Now the next step is to close the two fuselage halves together, like so. And before that, I need to attach the propeller assembly inside. Now before I'm going to do that, what I'm going to do is I will fill up the fuselage with Play-Doh. Now you might ask me why. Well, I do this in almost all my models, and the reason for that is I need to give some weight to my model because this plastic is really light. So what I do usually is I add Play-Doh in the spaces that I can find, which gives weight. Now this P-51 is already going to be a tail sitter because the World War II planes had a tail wheel on which the entire tail used to rest at an angle. So there's nothing to worry about. I can fill in wherever I want to. The plane will still remain the way it is. The only thing I need to be careful of is to stay away from these notches here so that I don't interfere with the next part that is going to be filled in. So all I do is I'm going to take some Play-Doh and knead it into a small ball, this kind. And this is a very good Play-Doh. It's not the sticky kinds, it's the one that is used for kids, and it doesn't stick to your hand, so it's and it can be molded the way you want. Now in this I can see there is some space here, and I can very easily fill this in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this. There's some space here as well, so I will take a piece of it and place it here, and that's about it. It adds some weight into the finished model, and I'll do the same thing on the other side as well. So I'll finish one side first and then go for the other side. Right, so I've just stuck up the fuselage halves together with some glue, and what you will need after that is some cloth pegs. So this is in order to hold it so that it attaches itself tightly, so that you can keep working on the other parts of it. Alright, so I'm at the next step, and as you can see here in the instructions, the next step says to attach the upper surfaces of the wings to the lower surface of the wing. Now it says that you need to drill these two holes on the left and the right side of the wings. So what I'm going to use to drill the holes is pin vise. Now this is a very basic pin vise. It was available at my local hardware store. I got it for about 25 rupees. So it's pretty cheap, pretty inexpensive, and it's a must-have in the toolkit of a scale modeler. What you will need along with the pin vise is a set of drill bits. Now these drill bits come in various sizes. That depends on the diameter of the hole that you're going to drill. So I think it's available, the entire set of 10 drills, starting from the lowest to the highest. It's a set of 10 drill bits, and I think it's available for about 200 rupees. I'm going to unscrew this, and as you can see, it makes place for the drill bit to go in. So I just put the drill bit within it and tighten it to a level where it no longer moves in or out or on the sides. Make sure you don't put a lot of pressure on this. It can break, and drill bits are costly. So the next thing, I put it here right on top of this and start rotating it in the clockwise direction. What you also can do at the same time to pinpoint the hole is use the hobby knife or the X-Acto knife, so that you get a very small hole into which you can actually drill in. So once that hole is there, all you need to do is take the drill, start rotating clockwise, and you can see that it's making a very, very clean hole out of it. So here we are on day 7 of the P-51 Mustang build, and as you can see, I've joined the parts up together. So the model has taken up the general shape of the P-51 Mustang. Now the next step for me is to go ahead and prime the model, but before that there's one more thing that I need to take care of, and that is these seam lines that you see out here. So while joining the model fuselage halves together, as much as I tried, this is the best that I could join up the seam lines with. So there is still a visible gap here and here behind the cockpit and in front of the cockpit, so I'll have to fill this in and sand it smooth. I can still go ahead and prime it, but then the problem is in the end I'll not be able to achieve a smooth finish on the model. So for that I will have to fill these spaces first, and the product that I'm going to use is Comfill. Now this is an automotive filler and it is used on cars and stuff. It's in the form of a paste, so all I do is I'll take the paste and apply it gently over the surfaces. I will mask the sides of these surfaces first, and then I'll apply within the gaps. It takes about 20 odd minutes to dry, and post that I can sand off the excess and smooth down the entire surface. So let's go ahead and fill these spaces. Right, so you can see I've masked off the sides of the P-51, and what I'm going to do next is take Comfill and put it on a flat surface like so. I've got this old credit card that I use. The next thing is I'm going to use a sharpened toothpick, mix it all up and just quickly apply it over in the gap here. Right, so we're back after about 15 to 20 minutes, and the putty paste has been drying, and as you can see it's almost rock hard right now. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to sand it smooth so that the entire seam line gets filled and smooth. So what I have here in front of you is a set of sandpapers basically. So I have sandpapers of different grits laid down in front of you, starting with a 100 grit, a 220 grit, a 400, a 600 and a 1200, moving from coarsest to the finest grit. Now these sandpapers I have actually cut them out into small pieces for my own ease, but they are available in A4 size papers, and I think the 100, the 220, the 400 and the 600 are available for 10 rupees or 15 rupees at the local hardware store. Each sheet is available for that much at the local hardware store. The higher grade 1200, and there is another one, I think that is a 3600 grade, which is not very easily available, but 1200 grade is slightly expensive, but one sheet will cost you about 20 to 25 rupees. So it's a must-have, and it helps really to go from the coarsest to the lightest, smoothing out the entire surface. So what we do is we go for dry or wet sanding, but I would prefer to go for wet sanding because dry sanding actually leaves a lot of lint and a lot of sanding dust on the model, which becomes slightly difficult to clean, though not extremely difficult, but it's advisable to go for wet sanding because when you wet sand, you're able to remove the dust and lint while you are sanding. So it's as simple as getting some water, dipping the sandpaper into water, and then smoothing out the surfaces. So I'm going to smooth out the surface here, and I'm going to show you how I do it. So the first step is I simply dry sand with a 100 grit so that I can remove most of the excess and get it ready for the next few grits of sandpaper. So you can see I'm very gently sanding it off, and you can see all that dust accumulating, so I just blow it away with some air. And I do the same thing here at the back of the fuselage too. Also made it ready for the next sandpaper, which is the 220 grit. So for this I'm going to go for wet sanding. I'll dip it in some water and start sanding. So here we are, and at this stage we have filled in and sanded smooth the entire seam line on the top and bottom of the model. Now what happens in the process of filling and sanding is that you end up losing a bit of detail in terms of these panel lines that you see. They're going around the fuselage on the top. However, since I've filled in and sanded this place, I've ended up losing a little bit of detail out here, and a similar case out here in the rear part of the fuselage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that detail back. Now there are two ways to go about it. You can either get the detail with your own good old X-Acto knife, and you can just scribe it around here so that you get the panel detail again, as you can see. Now that's one way of it, but take some time to do that, because if you don't have a sharp edge here, then it's going to take a little more time. So you can see I've kind of joined the panel line from the right to the left of the model by scoring it with my X-Acto knife. The other tool that you would need is a scoring blade, and you can see it's got a real sharp edge. This is how it works. You hold it here with it, right here, and you can see it's a very sharp edge down here in the form of this hook. So what you do is you hold it like this, the way you would hold a pen or a pencil, and with this hook, with this sharp hook, all you do is you score the panel line across. A very handy tool to have, and you can see that I've scored the panel line, and I have ended up getting the detail back again. So I'll do the same thing here at the back of it. What this tool actually does is it cuts through the plastic and gives you a very smooth finish in the end. Right, so at this stage I have scored the panel lines and got them back again, and I am ready to prime now. Before I go for the priming, I need to give a quick clean up to the model, and what I'm going to use for that is acetone, or nail polish remover as you call it. It's available at most cosmetic stores, so you can find it, and it's cheap. This bottle costed me about 40 odd rupees. I think it's a 50 ml or possibly a 50 ml bottle. So that with a piece of tissue paper, all you need to do is, because you've been working on the model for so many days, you've been holding it, there's a lot that's going on the model, so it ends up accumulating a lot of dust and grease and oil from your hands. So it's advisable to give a cleanup before you go for any kind of painting. So the cleanup with acetone, and I take it on tissue paper and just wipe it off, give it a gentle wipe here. Now since acetone evaporates very quickly, it'll very quickly clean up the dust from the model and prepare it for the priming. Right, so at this stage I have cleaned up the entire model with acetone or nail polish remover. You can see that it's fairly clean now, and I'm ready to prime the model. And the product that I'm going to use to prime is Bosny number 68 primer gray. It's actually a kind of a dark gray color that you get once you prime this. So what you need to do is take this spray can, give it a good shake for about 60 seconds. Post that, you can apply a light mist coat of the primer over the entire model. Now since this model is going to be mostly silver, a darker primer underneath will be a good idea to put. Now that brings us to the question, why a primer? A primer is required in order to give something for the next layer of paint to bite into and to stick to. So once you have the primer on it, the next few layers of paint that you're going to put on top of the model are going to stick better to the model. So it's always advisable to prime the models before you get onto any painting. Right, so here we are in the backyard of my house, and I'm going to spray the model with the primer. And as you can see, I've taken all the precautions. I've masked off the railing with this newspaper, and I'm gonna use the Bosnia number 68. I'm gonna give it a good shake. And I'm gonna now spray the underside of the model. So I've sprayed the underside of the model, and I'm now going to spray the upper part of the model. Right, so as you can see, I have now masked off the model, and you can see I've masked off the tail of it, I've masked off some part of the nose. And I'm getting it ready to spray the silver paint. It's already primed, top and bottom has been primed already, so I'm going to spray the underside of it first. I'm going to mount it on top of this. Now this is a cover from one of the older spray cans that I had, so it gives me that 360-degree view of the model. And what I'm going to spray is the spray can bright silver from 4S. This is number 450, and it's a very effective silver spray. So I'm going to give it a thorough shake, and then I'm going to spray it on the model. Okay, so here we are. This is day 10 of the P-51 Mustang build, and as you can see, I have painted up the silver on the top and the undersides of the Mustang, and I have also masked off the cockpit, the nose section, and I am getting ready to spray the red on the tail. So I'll be using my good old airbrush, and this is the Aerograph AG136B model. I've already spoken about this airbrush on another video. The things that you would need when you're painting with an airbrush, I'm just going to talk about those things. So the very first thing is you would need plain simple water. So I just have water in this container, and it helps me because it's got a pipe out here, so it helps to squeeze the water out very easily. So this is plain simple water. The next thing you would need is, of course, nail polish remover or acetone. This is to remove paint from the airbrush once you're done with the entire airbrushing. You would definitely need some paint. So since I'm going to paint the red on the tail, I'm going to use the Camlin Crimson Lake paint. It's a very high quality paint, so I suggest that if you're into acrylics, you must get this paint. I also use Fevicryl, which is another good brand of paint to use. Fevicryl is glossy paint, so it leaves a lot of gloss once you paint it. These paints are kind of flat paints. So I'm going to use this for the first time. I'm going to spray this paint onto the model. Now you're going to need to thin the paint to, as you say, the level of consistency of milk. So you can either use water, but it is advisable to use isopropyl alcohol. So it's now, where do you find this? You find this at any chemist store, and it is available in this brand. It's called Cyprit. It's actually called Spirit, but it's spelled like that, Cyprit, and it's called isopropyl alcohol. It's used in the medical industry, and each bottle of it, I think this is a 400 ml bottle, and it's available for about 150 rupees. You can get a smaller bottle which is about 100 ml and which is available for probably 70 to 90 rupees. Very handy. It'll last you many models. The next thing you would need is a container to pour the water in, and you would of course need a mixing brush. Now once you're done with all the painting and stuff, you will need to clean up your airbrush. So for the cleanup, I use a homemade, well, I call it ABC, but this is actually airbrush cleaner. So I have made this with the Collins spray. So I added 30% of Collins spray, I added about 60% of water, and then I added 10% isopropyl alcohol to create this mixture. And you would need also a few drops of glycerin. Now again, this is clear glycerin. It's available for, I think, around 60 to 70 rupees at your local chemist shop. So you can buy this, a few drops of this into the airbrush cleaner. This helps to clean up and also to polish the parts inside and make them smoother to work. So must-haves if you're airbrushing. You would also need some cotton Q-tips. Now these are pretty cheap, and I got this entire pack for 10 rupees. They're very low quality, so always use them for cleaning purposes only, and that too cleaning the model. So you will need these, and I have plenty of them. So just 10 rupees for an entire pack. Right, so at this stage, as you can see, the painting process on the entire model is over. I have already attached the propeller spinner out here, and I have attached the exhaust cylinders as well. The next step that I'm going to perform on this is decaling, but before decaling I would need to gloss coat the model. However, there's another step before gloss coating the model, which is cleaning the model up and making it ready, or preparing it for the gloss coat. That's because it's been lying around for the last 2-3 days, and it does tend to accumulate some dust. So what you'll need to do is clean up the dust first and then go for a gloss coat. What I use to clean the dust up is this product. It's a car dashboard polish. I use it for my car dashboard as well. Very handy and very cheap. I got it for about 90 rupees, and it's a 200 ml bottle. It's a white paste, and what it does, what you need to do is you need to place a few drops of paste all along the surfaces that you're going to clean, and then with a piece of rag or a piece of tissue paper, you're gently going to buff it. You keep buffing it, and finally, you know, you'll see that it gives a very nice sheen to the entire surface and cleans the surface up as well. So I'm going to clean it up first. So here I go. We'll start from the top. So place a couple of drops here, drops here, couple of drops here on the wing, drops here as well, and the next step is I'll take a piece of rag, make it in the form of a square or a rectangle that can be handled easily. I'm going to take the model and very gently just going to buff it on the surface here. And once you've done that, the next step is with a clean piece of rag again, you're going to buff the surface that you need to clean. So as you can see, there were some specks of dust over it, and what it has done now is it's given an absolutely clean surface here, and there's a new sheen to this surface, and the surface is now ready for a gloss coat. Right, so I've cleaned up the entire model, and you can see that there's a new kind of sheen over it. So the next step is I'm going to gloss coat the model, and what I'm going to use for the gloss coat are two products. So I'm going to show you the two products. The first one is this, which is a clear paint from 4S, and the other one is this one. It's the Brusto Artist's Picture Varnish. So these two products, they work very well as gloss coats. I had been using this one for a fairly long time. Basically this one is, the 4S one is not a gloss varnish, it is actually clear paint, but it serves the same purpose as a gloss varnish. Once you spray it over the entire model, it gives a very glossy finish to the model, and then you can place the decals over it. This is a recent product that I've started using, also very effective, the Brusto Artist's Picture Varnish, but this is much more expensive than this. The 4S one, it costed me, this entire can of 400 ml costed me around 120 rupees, whereas this can, it costed me around 600 rupees. So, but nonetheless, both are great products to work with, so it's up to you which product you choose. You can use any one of them. Alright, welcome back. So we are currently on day 14 of the P-51 Mustang build, and what I'm doing right now is I am putting on the decals onto the entire model, and as you can see, I have already completed the decals on the lower side. I put in the smaller decals on the sides and on the upper surfaces of the aircraft. So what I'm going to do next is put the final set of decals and discuss how I go about putting decals. So the stuff that you would need for placing the decals on the model is, of course, the first thing is the cutting stuff with which you can cut the decals out. So you would need a pair of scissors, you would need your good old X-Acto knife, you would need a pair of tweezers to hold the decals inside the water once you start placing the decals. You would need the decals and the model, of course. You would need a few cotton Q-tips, that is because once you place the decals on the model, you'll have to wipe off the excess water from the underneath, so you will need a few cotton Q-tips. You will need a brush, a small container with so what I have in here is PVA glue, basically mixed with water, and this actually gives a good surface for the decals to stick onto. So you place this underneath, and I'll tell you how. And of course you would need a container for the water and warm water. So let's go on with placing the decals. So here you have the PVA glue mixed with water, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place, as per the instructions, I'm going to place decal number 36. Right, so I have decal 36 here. Cut it out from the decal sheet. And this is going to go here on the left wing. So I'll take a little bit of PVA glue and apply it so that it gives the decal a surface to stick onto. Then I will hold the decal with the pair of tweezers and dip it in warm water for about 20 to 30 seconds. Now once that is done, you'll see that the decal, it actually starts sliding over the surface. So take the water out from, take the decal out from the water, bring it onto the surface, and gently slide it on with the brush onto the surface. Now you can use your brush to maneuver the decal around into position, since this is a bigger one, so you can use your hand itself. It's roughly in the center here. So there we go. Now you just dab the decal with the brush to remove the excess water from the underneath and remove any air bubbles too. So once that is done, take your cotton Q-tip, gently roll it over the decal so that you push out any excess bubbles from the underneath. So that the decal conforms to the surface.